Hello, this is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. This is Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. So we have a few things to cover. Probably going to be a shorter podcast, but got more basketball than I've talked in a while. But a lot of football, some baseball. Which I normally don't talk about, so... Alright. So, the Nets, obviously, in here the past week, KD requested a trade from the Nets. Apparently they are talking to the Suns about a trade. I honestly think it's perfect. I don't think KD should be getting out of the situation. I think if the Nets were to trade anyone, it should be Kyrie, but if KD wants out, he wants out. But it's like, I think KD, I don't really think he's a leader. Like, he's got number one talent. But it's like him, Kawhi and AD. They have number one talent, but it's like they're not really leaders. You can hardly build a team around them. I mean, obviously, you can build a team around them because they did it with Kawhi in Toronto, but, there's a difference between a leader and the best player on a team, KD was the best player on the Warriors, but Steph was the leader, and that's why they won. I think if you were to go to the Suns, it would be a similar situation, very similar to the Warriors, actually, where they're the 1 seed. In the West, Booker can be kind of a Klay Thompson, where he wouldn't exactly be the best player on the team, but he would contribute a lot, like Klay. And then you got CP3, who would be the leader in that case. It would be a good fit for him. I think for KD. I think because he is one of the top 5 players in the league, undisputed. So any team would be lucky to have him, but I think the Suns is a particularly good spot for him. Apparently Rodgers is excited about the wideouts for the Packers following the Davante Adams trade. No. The thing is, there's, when Rodgers has a number 1 target, that's really who he settles on, like last season, no one exceeded more than 50 receptions other than Adams, who had 123. Adams 123 receptions. Next closest is Lazard with 40. Then Valdes-Scantling, who is no longer there, had 26 receptions. And Cobb had 28. Now, Lazard did have 8 touchdowns. So he can obviously get in the end zone, but the thing is, it's more of a short yardage deal there, Like, Adams was able to lead them down the field and score touchdowns. They're not going to find someone like that. There's very few people in the league that can do that. That can lead you down the field, get a big throw or a short pass, like Adams. And I don't see Lazard taking that role, because he's done it before, but not as number 1 option. Like, it's a big step. Like, especially with, again, Rodgers as your quarterback. The step from the number 2 option to the number 1 is pretty huge. And I honestly blame this on Rodgers, because if he wasn't I think if he didn't talk about retirement, Adams would have been fine signing like a 4-year extension. Like, okay, we can do these 4 years, and then, if Rodgers leaves, I'll leave too, and it will be free agency, so it would be his decision, and they wouldn't have to make a trade or anything. It would be the best case scenario. But Rodgers started to talk about retirement, and now here we are. If Rodgers was reassuring, they would have been fine. I honestly think if Rodgers was more reassuring about him staying, because he seems very, whatever about what happens, but Adams is serious. He has a lot. He has a long road ahead of him, and he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to be stuck with. He doesn't want to sign a 4-year extension with a team as a quarterback that might be gone in 2 of those years, and then he has to spend 2 years in an organization he doesn't even like. Again, it would have been really helpful if Rodgers just kept his mouth shut. Or not even keep his mouth shut, just tell Adams that give him a specific amount of years that you'll be there, 3 or 4, and then he can work out an extension. But no, let's talk about retirement and have Adams be so unsure of what we're doing here that he gets shipped off. So in a recent interview, Tua and Tyreek Hill kind of poked fun at the critics that say their chemistry won't be. They said their chemistry would be on point over the season. And obviously, I think we all know that division, the AFC East, Bills are winning it very easily. I don't think the Dolphins, Pats, or Jets really improved much throughout the offseason. And even if they improved, it's not enough to beat the Bills. But I think the Dolphins, I do think they became a more offensive team, which I think is good. I don't think, like I said, the NFL's changing. It's becoming more offensive. So adjusting the offensive side of the ball is better because they've been a defensive team for a while and they just haven't been successful. So that's why they can make a change. So I think they're going to be probably a wild card team, and then obviously I think the Pats and Jets are going to be battling for the third place in the division there because I don't think any of those teams really did much in the offseason, and I don't think either of them are good enough to make the playoffs. Alright. So Broncos teammates are already loving Russell Wilson. They say he's been a good leader. Big shock. That's what Russell Wilson does. He's a superstar. He's a leader. That's who he's always been. Honestly, I don't want to say this again because the last time I said the Broncos were a sneaky playoff team, they completely whiffed. They were 3rd or 4th in the division at that point. I would watch for them. Because I recall saying a few months, when Aaron Rodgers was possibly traded, I did say the Broncos might just be the same team Tampa was before Tom Brady, where they're a quarterback away. You can't see it now because their quarterback's terrible, but they may be just a superstar quarterback away. And again, they're in the best division in football now, though, so it could be tough to make the Super Bowl from there. They got the Raiders, who just got Adams. The Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs. And you got the Chargers, who are just getting better and better. So it's... Honestly, I think the Raiders might be the worst team in the division right now. Because Adams is a big improvement, but, I can't think of another move they made throughout the offseason other than Adams. The Broncos made a pretty... getting a quarterback is much more significant than getting a receiver, number one. I think the Broncos will be a bigger threat than the Raiders. Chiefs should be, but I don't know. They did lose Tyreek Hill, so that's a pretty big hit, too. The Raiders could be better than the Chiefs. Probably compete with them. Honestly, I'm going to say it, and I could regret this later on, but you know what? I'm wrong a lot, so what the hell? I I think the Broncos are going to win the division. I really do. And again, I could easily be wrong on this, but that's my belief right now, that the Broncos will win the division. Alright. So, Pro Football Focus ranked the Bills as the best roster in the NFL. And the thing is, I think it's more about importance, like who they have at the most important positions. That's probably what it came down to. I don't think it's about them having a great player at every single position. I think it's more about just I actually just said, I think getting the right quarterback is more important than getting a good receiver, because you need 3 receivers, not 1. The quarterback, on the other hand, it only takes 1 of them. Look at the teams that made the Super Bowls here. The Bengals and Rams both had a great quarterback. They both had edge rushers. They both had a good O-line. I think that's what it comes down to, really. The Bills and Rams, honestly, the Bills and Rams is they're my Super Bowl pick next year. Because I think they both are I think they're the best run organizations at the moment. I think the Rams are the best, but the Bills, they're getting there. They really already are there. They're not like an up-and-coming team. They're already at that Super Bowl point. Last year, it came down to a crazy overtime against the Chiefs. And again, the Chiefs, they lost Tyreek Hill. The Bills didn't lose much. I think if it were to come down to the Bills and Chiefs again, the Bills would have the upper hand. And I do think that they would be able to beat the Bengals this season too. And the NFC is just significant. The AFC is really the division, or conference rather, that got much better this season. After this season, when you think about it, Brady and Rodgers might both be retired after this season. That's what we're looking at right now, and that makes the Buccaneers and the Packers significantly worse, losing Brady and Rodgers. So that makes 2 of the best teams in the NFC very much lower than they were before. The AFC, again, stacked divisions everywhere outside of the AFC South, obviously, which is a mess. But honestly, I think if the Bucs lose Brady, that the NFC South is a worse division than the AFC South. Because the AFC South, at least they have 2 above-average teams in the Colts and Titans. They're above average. They're not a great team, or even a good team for that. But they're above average. And then you got, obviously, the Jags and Texans are both terrible. The 2 worst teams in the league, in my opinion. But think about it. I don't think there's an above-average team when Brady leaves. Maybe the Saints. I know Jameis Winston's not a bad quarterback, but he's not great. And they just lost Sean Payton. That's a big culture change for the Saints. They've had Sean Payton for a while now, and now they lose. It's a whole new system, really. It's pretty much a rebuild when you think about it. It's a rebuild, kind of on steroids, because they do have a decent roster still. But I don't think the Saints would be above average by next year. And then there's the Panthers. The Falcons are in full rebuild mode. I think that's the worst division in football if Brady leaves. Alright, so moving on. So Brett Favre. I'm actually gonna go over my top, who I believe are the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL right now. God, I might get destroyed for this, but you'll see. But anyway, I'll tell you about the subject. that got me to think about this list, because Brett Favre said that Derek Carr may never be in the same tier as Aaron Rodgers. And now, he might not be entirely wrong, especially, obviously right now, Carr is not in the tier that Rodgers is, but, you can't just say he'll never be there, because he's not even 30 yet. Like, he's still in his 20s, his career is still developing, and just think about what he's done in his career with the crappy teams he has had. Like, all the Raiders, like, he's never had, I can't think of the time I looked at the Raiders roster and said, that is a great team on paper. Like, even when they made the playoffs in, like, I think it was 2016, and he, I think, got hurt late in the season, I don't think that was a good roster. I think he just had an amazing season. Like, okay, they had Amari Cooper, okay. Name another player that was on that Raiders roster other than Amari Cooper and Derek Carr. Like, I mean, I could just be completely forgetting about what the roster looked like in 2016, but I can't remember a time that I looked at the Raiders roster and said that looks great. That's a threatening team. Like, I never thought that. But obviously Carr's not a top 5 or tier 1 QB. That's not where he is. But I do believe he is top 10. So, starting off at number 10, it's Derek Carr. I just pretty much explained it, what he's done with the Raiders roster, with the rosters he's had, and what he's been able to accomplish. I think it's just, it's really underappreciated when you think about it. Like, way too underappreciated even. And I thought about putting him at number 9, but I thought Kyler Murray, who was my number 9, should be higher because I think he's accomplished more. Now, I do believe he's had better rosters, but I also think he has better potential than Derek Carr. I think he has a higher ceiling. I think if he didn't get injured this year, he probably would have been a top 3 MVP candidate. The Cardinals were obviously undefeated for a while this season before his injury. He's a lot like Russell Wilson early in his career, where he's very mobile. If he can just stop complaining about his damn extension, I would trust him a lot more. And maybe you put him higher on this list. But at this time, I really can't, because the 8 quarterbacks ahead of him, I don't think you can argue with my top 8. Nah. You know what? You can argue with my top 3, but I don't think you can argue with my top 5 3. I don't think you can argue with. So 8 is actually, they might disagree with this one. Number 8 is Joe Burrow. Obviously, he just made the Super Bowl. He proved what a good leader he is. I think last year, before his injury, again, I think he could have put up a decent fight against Justin Herbert for Rookie of the Year. Obviously, Herbert was kind of unopposed in that category, but I think if Burrow played the full season, there was potential there. Of course, his O-line was pretty crap, and he got injured. But, you just have to look at this season to see why Burrow is a top 10 QB. Now, number 7 is Justin Herbert, and I know some people might put Burrow ahead of Herbert. And again, it's probably because of what he's accomplished. But I think, Herbert threw last year, as a rookie, he threw over 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. I don't think a rookie quarterback has ever done that. And he did it with a terrible Chargers team. All right, and I think they were 7-9 last year, or 2 years ago. They were 7-9 in his rookie year. That was not a good team. Not a good roster. Last year, what Herbert went through and what he did was incredibly impressive. And he was only more impressive this year. So I think he's better than Burrow. You can dispute that if you want. It's not going to change my list. Number 6 is Matt Stafford. Obviously, just won a Super Bowl. Proved what he can do. It's not a coincidence that he left the Lions and won a Super Bowl the year after it. You know? Like, it just showed how much of his talent was wasted. It's kind of sad when you think about it. Because it shows what could have been if he didn't get drafted by the Lions. You know, he could have had a much better career, but... You know, he proved this year that, you know, give him a good O-line, good coach, good roster. He is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And I thought about putting him in my top 5, but again, I just don't think the top 5... I don't think you really dispute with it. Like, I don't think anyone... I just think, like, you can argue with the order I put the 5 quarterbacks in, but I don't think there's any disputing that they are the top 5 quarterbacks, no matter what order you put them in. They are the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. So 5, I got Wilson. He may have had a down year this year, but like I said, he's still, obviously, great leader. The Seahawks never really had a good O-line. You know, he was sacked a record amount of times for 9 years. And he still made it to 2 Super Bowls, even winning one early in his career. And you know, he put up there were multiple seasons where he could have won MVP and he didn't. You know, but he's obviously a top 5 quarterback. You can't take him out of there. About to get a little more controversial. I got Brady at 4. And this is currently, by the way, this isn't my all time. Brady's my number 4. He won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. He's just 1 year removed. Like, even though this year, they lost to the Rams. By the way, they almost came back in that game. That was ridiculous. He's only 1 year removed from winning a Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like, you can make an argument Brady is a top 3 quarterback right now. Just a bit of a down year last year, but I do still think he ranks in the top 5. Number 3 is Josh Allen. I do think, obviously, currently he's better than Brady. I thought he was going to win MVP last year. Clearly didn't. I'm probably going to take a risk and say he's going to win MVP this upcoming year. And it shouldn't be a risk, because I think a lot of people are also saying that, but, you know, last time I said that, he wasn't even in the finalists voting. I think this should be his year, though. I think the Bills have a good chance at beating the Rams in the Super Bowl, but I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. I'm just going to pick the Super Bowl this year. Obviously, I got the Rams and Bills. I think this is Allen's year to win MVP. I really do. And maybe by the end of this year, he'll be number 1 on my list. But right now, I can't put him ahead of the 2 quarterbacks who have probably been the most dominant quarterbacks in the last 2 or 3 years. So number 2, as it pains me to say this, but I got Rodgers at number 2. And you could make an easy case for number 1. He's literally a back-to-back MVP. Unfortunately, he falls back in games and he just doesn't. You know, it's at some point you gotta draw a line somewhere. Like, when he gets behind in games, he often loses. You know, and I don't think. You know, and the part of the playoff loss this year is on him. Because, you know, yes, the special teams is the one that ultimately blew it. Like, the special teams ultimately blew it in the end. But also, like, you gotta put up more than 10 points. You gotta put up more than 10 points. As the MVP of the season, you gotta put up more than 10. You know, it's like, yes, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered if the special teams didn't blow it, but, like, On the other hand, special teams wouldn't have had to blow it if you scored more points. So there's a lot of blaming you can do. I'm going to blame both Aaron Rodgers and the special teams. Because I don't like to be one of those Packers fans that doesn't blame Rodgers for anything. You know, I blamed Aaron Rodgers for the NFC Championship loss last year. You know, and I mean, obviously the years before that, I didn't really blame him much, but, you know, he's a top 2 quarterback. There's no disputing that right now, but I don't think I can put him at 1 right now, just because of that problem he has in the playoffs. Number 1 is Patrick Mahomes, easily the most dominant quarterback in the last 3 years. He doesn't have to win an MVP to prove it. He won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. And Super Bowl MVP. I think he was the youngest to do so. He got blown out in a Super Bowl. It was by Tom Brady. All right? He went up against a player that has won more Super Bowls than than every franchise in the league. All right, we can't bash him too much for getting destroyed by him, because he's not the only one. And this season wasn't as good as his other few seasons, but I do think he's still the best quarterback in the league right now. And again, I think that's probably going to change by the end of the season. But for now, that's my top 10. Review: 10 Carr, 9 Murray, 8 Burrow, 7 Herbert, 6 Stafford, 5 Wilson, 4 Brady, 3 Allen, 2 Rodgers, 1 Mahomes. Alright, so Lane Johnson of the Philadelphia Eagles praised Jalen Hurts for his poise. Now, the Eagles, it's so funny to me that Dallas has the best odds to win the NFC East. It's so stupid. They're not winning it. The only team in the NFC East that is looking up right now is the Eagles. And that's why I think they're going to win it. Alright, Hurts should be improved. They got Devontae Smith. He should be better. Nick Sirianni is not as bad as I thought he is. I think he's going to be better. O-line is not bad with the Eagles. And, I think some people might have the idea that I think the Eagles are going to be this great, deep playoff run team. I don't think that. I'm saying they're going to win the NFC East. That means nothing. Winning the NFC East means a wild card exit. It means nothing less than that. If you win the NFC East, you're pretty much a guaranteed first-round exit. You're not making it past the wild card, because you're running into you're going into the wild card significantly unmatched, because you spend almost half the year playing the Cowboys, Giants, and Commanders. That's not gonna prepare you to play a playoff team, say, the Bills, or even the Dolphins, for that matter. I don't know why I'm naming AFC teams right now, but all right, it's not going to prepare you to beat, say, the Rams, or even, I don't think they can even beat the Vikings at this point. But they will win the division. They're better than the Cowboys. They're better than the Giants. It's it's not that they're good. It's that they're better than the crappy teams that are in their division, Alright. So, what else do we got? Oh! biggest news of the day, Mayfield to the Panthers. And, like I said earlier in this podcast, the NFC is going to be wide open soon. Rodgers might leave soon. Brady is probably going to retire after this year, I'm guessing. On the other hand, the AFC, where Mayfield would have been, had the Browns not traded him, he would have been in a conference with Mahomes, Allen, Derek Carr, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. But now he goes from the Browns to the Panthers, meaning he gets a better owner, a better coach, a better O-line. It's a great landing spot for him, and it's just, it's a team. They're not a good team. I'm not saying they're a good team. And I honestly don't know why they didn't try to trade Sam Darnold. I don't know what they're trying to do there, but it's a great landing spot for Baker. And like I said, outside of Brady, he would be going into the worst division in football when Brady leaves. So we could possibly be looking at him being the potential. He might be the best quarterback in that division. Once Brady leaves. Because who else is in that division? We got a new quarterback we got Desmond Ridder, unproven quarterback for the Falcons. We got Jameis Winston, inconsistent quarterback for the Saints. That's the only competition I think he has right now. Then you got the Bucs, who we don't know who the next quarterback would be. I think it's going to be... I think it's going to be Kyle Trask. Never mind. But I don't think he'll be better than Baker at the time, because he'll be unproven. Just like Desmond Ridder. So none of these guys... it's going to be him and Jameis Winston. It's going to be the Saints and Panthers in that division. They might turn into the new NFC East, where they go into the playoffs and they just to be a first-round exit. Alright. So, Zion Williamson's rookie max extension includes injury protections. And he's been ridiculously limited. So, I think it's imperative that they do that. I don't think he's even played. I can't really think of a lot of memories from him other than his rookie year. And it's just, he's a great player, great athlete. And the thing is, he's beyond a basketball player. He's an attraction. Because he's such a great athlete. Because he's so freakishly athletic, he's an attraction. But he's got to stay healthy, and that's clearly been a tough thing for him. It's like Anthony Davis. Davis, great talent, great athlete, gets injured all the time. So, and I hope he does. I'm rooting for him to do that. Because, again, he's great. He brings a lot. He brings more than basketball to the table. Alright, so the Knicks are expected to be penalized for tampering. With Jalen Brunson, a very talented shooting guard that I thought was underrated this entire season. And seems to be underrated by other teams in free agency. I would defend them next year, because players... the reality is players talk and families talk. I don't know why the NBA is trying to put a hold on something that they can't control. You can't control how players communicate with each other. It's impossible. Players are going to talk to each other. Families are going to talk to each other. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. And it came down to the fact that they wanted to pay him more than Dallas did. Dallas didn't want to pay him. They weren't as urgent to pay him as the Knicks were. That's, why I think he chose to go to the Knicks instead. By the way, Ohtani just had his 4th start where he did not allow an earned run. He is the 7th pitcher since 1901 to do that and go 4-0 with a 0 ERA and 40-plus strikeouts in a 4-start stretch. So that's something. I really don't get how I don't understand how the Angels have 2 of the best and obviously Mike Trout has been in a bit of a slump, but I don't get how they have 2 of the most talented, best players in baseball, and they're not over 500. Like, how poorly run do you have to be that bad? Like, that's insane. Anyway, moving to baseball, and my final segment of the day. So apparently, Rob Manfred could use a clause in his new CBA to add legends to the All-Star game. And the example, which I think was a good one, was Albert Pujols. And, he's about to retire. And the All-Star game, honestly, this would be a good idea because the All-Star game is an entertainment thing anyway. Like, I really don't care what they do with it as long as you don't make it boring, Like, that's what it kind of comes down to. It's an entertainment thing. It should be meant to entertain people. And I think people would love to see Albert Pujols. It's not a competitive thing that you're trying to win. It's just entertainment. So, I think it would be a great idea. I'm for that, 100%. Alright, this was Dylan Miller on Daily Dose of Dylan. Again, not on a huge schedule. I should be here tomorrow, but just don't be expecting me to go every day. Like I said, I got a schedule now. It's crazy how being virtual at school is a lot better because we were done at 12. Gather my information. I think I always say this every time I sign off a podcast, but it's true. It's got a lot worse since I've had all that schoolwork to keep up with. Again, at least in summer, I'm more active on this, but it's been tough. So anytime I can get a podcast in, you'll see me. And again, it's the Dylan Miller Daily Dose of Dylan, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, or iHeartRadio. It's the Dylan Miller Daily Dose of Dylan. I will see you tomorrow.